You're listening to Free Mama Radio, where we believe you can have both a successful business and show up as the mom you want to be. I'm your host, Lauren Golden, a mom who built a full-time income working part-time hours. Now, I help other moms like you learn how to work from home on your own terms, take control of your schedule, and make more money so you can live a totally awesome, guilt-free life. I am on a mission to make sure that no mother has to choose between family and financial stability. So if you've been wondering, can I really have it all? This podcast will give you the answers.
Welcome back to another episode of Free Mama Radio. I'm here with one of my favorite humans who I'm excited to introduce you to. If you attended Free Mama Live back in October, she is no longer a stranger to you. And if you read my emails, I talk about her a lot because she's doing some stuff inside of me. If that sounds bad, but I mean it with every sense of what I just said. Her name is Jillian Bolanz. She is an intuitive life coach and spiritual mentor. She is a guidance of all things moon, cyclicality, which I'm super excited to dive more into, intuition, and true self-love. I mean, how beautiful is that? She's the creator of the True You Live event and various deeply connected coaching programs, one I am a member of. Her mission is to help women stop forcing. Do y'all feel this right now? Her mission is to help women stop forcing and start flowing in life so that they can uncover the truth of who they really are. And we're not crying yet, but we might be soon. We're not sure. Jillian makes me cry a lot. And as she's told me before, if you're not crying, I'm not doing my job. So we have a very intimate relationship. Jillian, welcome to Free Mama Radio. I'm so happy to have you.
I am just beyond grateful to be here. I love you so deeply, you know this. And I love your women too. Being at Free Mama Live and just everything that has budded since then, it's an honor beyond honors. And you're right. The tears haven't started flowing yet, but we're just getting started.
Sometimes I just hear your voice and I can feel myself choking on my feelings. I'm so excited to have you here. And this is not about me for once and my emotions, which is where we spend a lot of time. I botched your bio as I told you I was going to. I'm like, it's too long. It doesn't feel conversational. But something I did figure out is that you're a mom. You are a free mama. You have 3 beautiful boys and an amazing husband. You live in Maine, which sounds very cold. Although I'm wearing my sweater vest thing today because I'm always cold too. I'm
wrapped in a blankie right now, so you're not alone. It is cold. It's 26 degrees today.
Okay. Before we go there, I want to set the stage just a little bit about how we met. So at the beginning of COVID, I had become friends with an online, we meet in Facebook groups as we do in the 21st century. Yes. And I had met a girl, we were kind of in a summit together and I had a girl crush on her for a while. I legitimately called this human and was like, can we be friends? And I think she was like, are you a stalker? And I'm like, no, I really just need friends. Anyway, a small group of us girls got together and Jillian, you were one of those girls. And I've told you this before. On one of those very first calls, I was kind of like, I am not sure we have anything in common. When I met you, I was like, she's amazing. I like her, but I'm like, she's super chill and I'm super not. And I'm just not sure we're on the same wavelength. And very soon after that, as I got to know you, I obviously liked you. I just wasn't sure we were going to is she going to get me? Which is so funny because you're the person who gets me. But you told me something that was super shocking. You're like, no, Lauren, I used to be just like you. I used to be
twins, sisters from another mister style.
Take us back to that, Jillian. Take us, what did your life look like when you were around super tight like yours truly?
Okay, first of all, let me just say that you are beautifully and divinely made. You are exactly where you're meant to be. I can't not. You know me.
This is still about me.
Right, that's why we do what we do, so that we can be the brave ones to go first and lead the way and say, hey, girls, this is the work, but hi. Been there, own the t-shirt and the trucker hat. We got this. And it's so funny because you use the word tightly wound, and that's legitimately how I describe myself in those moments. And let's be really super clear here. I still have those moments. The patterning of that goes so deep, and bits and pieces of it serve me in different parts of my life, right? We can't be all zen and floaty and a dolphin riding off into the sunset, we wouldn't get anything done. So there's this beautiful juxtaposition that comes when we dig deeper and we recognize that there are more pieces to our puzzle than what we've been focusing on. So, I know.
I love that you already went into coach mode. I'm like, just tell me about Jillian before she found the
Okay, so we're going to dive right into there. Jillian, about this version of my story started about 4 or 5 years ago. Previous to that, I am the oldest child of 3 girls. I am an overachieving, overworking, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I've got to do, go. And if I'm not doing good enough, then that must mean I'm not working hard enough. So I'll sacrifice more hours of sleep. I'll work harder. I'll force, I'll push, I'll do all of that. Like, I don't know, but I'm thinking you, Lauren, can relate. And I'm thinking that many a mama can relate to that as well. And underneath the surface of it all, I was really good at it. Right? Like, I am a very good athlete. I was a very good student in school and continue to be. I'm just a never ending nerd who loves learning. And that has served me well throughout much of my life. And when we get really crystal clear on the whys behind things, I liked it. I liked working hard and getting the reward at the end of that snippet of the journey. But ultimately, it's where I got praise. It's where I got love. It's where I deemed myself worthy. So I created this relationship within myself that the harder I worked, the more worthy I became. The louder the applause came, the bigger the reward was, the more lovable I was. And now I know that's simply not true. We are innately worthy, but when you are damn good at working that hard and hustling like that and doing the thing and you get the praise from it, it's hard to unwind from that and really own and feel that innate worth that we all have. So I functioned like that for many a year.
And what were you doing? Like, for people who don't know you, like, were you working a full-time job? Were you an entrepreneur? Yeah. Like, what were you a mom yet? Like, what did your life look like when you were in this like hustle mode?
Super great question. So, I was thinking of like high school as I was talking, but I'm going to jump forward because it started there, right? It really started, like, those seeds really started to take root in high school, where, and it was like, oh yeah, like, I am good at this, right? And I'm good at most things because I try most things and I work really hard at most things. Mm-hmm. So there's that. People always thought that things came easily, but what they didn't see was that I was willing to work for it. So there was that piece too. Let's jump into like mid-20s. So I had done all the things, Lauren. Like, I went to college. I met the guy. I got the job. I got married. I got the better job. I was being groomed within a hospital for upper management. I was the youngest practice manager in the hospital that I worked in. I also had the highest employee satisfaction scores. And not only was I managing one practice, I was managing two practices that were before me on the brink of being cut, actually, from the hospital. And I came in and like turned the beat around, turned around things financially, turned around things with employee satisfaction, like all of that, right? Like the poster child of like God's gift to practice management. And I say that like tongue in cheek because like, I got you know, like that's how it felt at the time. And so, got the attention of upper management. My VP looked at me and said, oh, you're going to be taking my job within just a few years. I'm like 25 years old at this point. So, but what nobody knows, or nobody knew then, people know now, is that behind the scenes, behind the bubbly and I can do it, and here we go, guys, like the rah, like, let's do this, woman that the world was seeing was a girl that was crying herself to sleep every single night. At that time in my life, I was really picking apart my physical body. I was 120 pounds soaking wet, and I cried myself to sleep every single night, convinced that I was the FAT word, because that was the easiest place for me to hate myself, for me to tear myself down, and for me to pick myself apart. And it's interesting because even now, 10 years later, whenever I go to picking apart my physical body, I actually ask myself, like, what's this really about? Wow. Because for me, it's lack, and it's distrust of myself, and I'm feeling unsafe in some areas. So because I know the hating my physical body so well, I try to stop there. And I know now that I've got to dig deeper. And of course, then was the you got to dig deeper part of this, but we weren't quite at that leg of the story yet. So hating myself, crying myself to sleep at night, trying to appease everybody, wearing all the masks. I always say I could walk into a room, take a look around, figure out what every single person in that room expected of me, or what I perceived they expected of me, and supersede it, no problem. Like, that was my job. I gave myself to impress, to overdo, to over deliver. And meanwhile, in my personal life, I'm like deteriorating and hating myself. And this is going to be like the segue for us to get into cyclicality later on, if we're going to go there.
Oh yeah.
But I was trying to get pregnant and I couldn't. I was off birth control and my period wasn't coming back. This is not a surprise to me, even though deep down I was so like hurting from it. But I think really, I ultimately always knew that this was going to be a thing. So my physical body was a really great place for me to take out a lot of frustration and anger. And not surprisingly, it was the thing that kind of like wasn't working for me ultimately in a way that I craved for it to. But because of the lifestyle of busy and go and impress, I didn't have time to slow down and take care of myself really, and nurture and nourish myself really. So I was trying to get pregnant and didn't have a period, and you can't really get pregnant without a full cycle there. So we actually went through the IUI process, which is the stage right before IVF, which for any mamas who have gone through that, are going through that, any fertility thing is very emotion filled. And I just want you to know that you're not alone. So went through IUI, got pregnant eventually with my first son, Cameron. And after I had Cameron, everything changed. I was about 10 months postpartum and I looked at my husband again. I was like, oh, I just can't wait to lose the rest of this baby weight. And Lauren, he looked at me, he goes, don't you do it again. Don't you go back down that self-loathing path again, because he knew how easy it would be for me to slip there. And in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, the way that I functioned for so long wasn't just tearing me apart. It was tearing my husband apart too. And there was no way I was going to do that to him again and to a baby. So I wanted to find better solutions for myself. And it actually led me to network marketing, which was my first step in the entrepreneurial world. And I know how you feel about network marketing. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity that it gave me, because it led me to where I am now. I'm not doing it anymore, but it was a beautiful gateway, and also completely and totally contributed to the egocentric go, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I've got to prove all these things. I got to do what other people deem as duplicatable and like all of that. So there was a lot of unwinding there, a lot of hustle, a lot of strife, but it was a crucial part of getting me to leave the hospital and the world that people expected me to be in, and to start braving this new path that I'm on now. So that was a long soliloquy. What do you have for me for questions? Where do you want me to go next?
I don't know about everybody else who's watching right now, but I am super engaged. I'm like, tell me more about the thing. Okay. So let's like recap. So we've gone from like overachieving, never enough, constantly go, like, it's having harm on your physical relationship with your body. But now we're a mom. Now we have a job that's kind of not the status quo anymore.
Yep.
And so where do you grow from here? Isn't that so good? Where do you grow from here?
I just want to hug you. Like, really well done.
Thank you so much. You rub off so well.
So we grow into the next stage of that iteration. So I left my job. I mean, that's a huge leap. That's a huge level of trust. That's a huge, like, oh my gosh. But what I wanted, Lauren, is everything that you ultimately help women with. I wanted to be home with my baby, and I wanted to make a difference. And at that time, that means of which that I had to make a difference was all that I knew. I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. I had no freaking clue, but it was a great segue. So at this point, Cameron, my first son, is a couple years old. Michael, my husband, and I are starting to want a second baby. And at this point, I still hadn't had a natural period come to me and didn't expect it to. Like, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thought. In my head, I don't get periods. I'm just different. Like, this is just what we do. And let's press on with life. So we went through the IUI process again and got pregnant the very first time because I knew it worked. Right? Like there's that like deeper level of belief the second time around, because the first time you're like, oh gosh, what if this doesn't work? And like, where are we going to go from here? And there are bazillions of stories out there of women who try IUI and they go into IVF, and it's like that unknown, right? And so I kind of got to take that out a little bit. I mean, you never know, but I went into the second IUI round in complete belief.
Yeah.
Got pregnant with Andrew and had him. And a year later, I remember walking into the very room that I'm in. There's a workout area on the other side of the computer. And I had just gone to the chiropractor. Both kiddos were sleeping. I walked in. My husband, God bless him, he was like about to work out. I walked in so bloated that I looked like I was 5 months pregnant. And I had a 4-year-old and a 10-month-old sleeping upstairs. I was not 5 months pregnant, but I was so constipated. I was so bloated because I realized I was holding on to so much. And in that moment, I looked at Michael and I said, I feel broken. I feel broken. In that moment, that's when everything changed, was that moment where I recognized and I got really honest with myself. I feel broken because I don't have a period. And I know that it's representative of so much more than just my body doesn't bleed. It's like, I'm holding on to so much. My whole sacral chakra, which is like your womb area, it doesn't work. And that's the chakra of flow and waxing and waning and give and receive and all of that. And I'm over here like, shit's not working. Like, it's not working. Yeah, I was so clenched because I was trying to control all things.
I have no idea what that's like.
You have no clue what I'm talking about. I know.
I'm like, this sounds like our last call. This is
Did we talk about this recently? But I mean, so many women nowadays can relate to this because there is so much pressure that is put on us from every which way. And for me, when I got completely honest, Lauren, not having a period for most of my life was convenient. I didn't have to slow down. Wow. I didn't have to stop. I didn't have to rest, because who had time to rest? I got work to do. I got things to prove. So that was my mentality. But that night, I'll never forget it. I saw, like that ugly cry where it's just like from the bottom of your toes, like it all came out. And that was when I knew things had to change. I wanted to understand what cyclicality meant. I didn't have the words for it at the time, but I knew, like, the female cycle, like this missing piece. Like, I'm not special. I'm not the one woman that's not meant to have a period out of bazillions of women who have graced this earth and will grace this earth. Like, there's something there that I'm just not allowing. And it's funny, allow is my word for this year. So thank you. Of course, you're going to pop up. So I started focusing on the moon cycle. It was, yeah. So I'll stop there.
I want to pause just for a second.
Yeah.
Because like, I know that there are people listening right now, probably right now, but for sure on the podcast, like, who they're where you're talking about. Yeah. Like, they're at the place where when you said clenched, they were like, I'm clenched. When you were like, I'm ready, like, I can't do this, like, just allow, like, all, like, they're there. And like, like, that's where I was last year. And a lot of these free mamas, like, they kind of watched me, maybe not the cry from the underneath my toes part, but like, they watched me verbally processing as I was kind of going through this calling to like unclench. That's kind of actually for me very much what it felt like. And it's a work in progress, as you very well know, but I had you, like, you were placed in my life right at the beginning of COVID, which was really when I started this awareness of cyclicality and noticing patterns in my life. And how do I not control this? How do I allow this? How do I surrender? That's my
surrender.
Like, how do how do I unclench and allow this to happen? And I had your friendship. And then now obviously I work with you, you know, as my coach or mentor. Like, so I had your support. What do you say to everybody right now who like, this is tapping at them, but like, they don't know what to do? Like, how did you start this exploration process?
Yeah. Brilliant question. For me, it was about assembling a team. It was about me saying, okay, I can't do this all by myself. I don't even know where to start with this. So for me personally, with the period piece, I started going to pelvic floor PT. I had been going to chiropractic. I've been going to chiropractic for years now. And, but I got really specific with her of like, this is what I'm working on. I brought a naturopath into my life so that I could talk about, I mean, our emotion, energy is everything. Energy makes up just as much of our bodies as it does emotion. And there's so much connectivity there. So I really wanted a physical support team to help me with the realigning of my physical body. But I had and still have a coach that I worked with very deeply. And I just got really laser focused on everything that I started learning, every conversation that I had with myself, which I spent a lot of time in my journal. I spent a lot of time asking myself questions and just giving myself the space to respond to it. And I know that so many women are like, but I don't journal. I don't have the time. Yeah, neither did I, but it became not an option. Like I needed to create that time because what I realized in the busy, in that hustle, in that go, 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 I just had this deep fear of getting quiet and intimate with myself. And that's where I needed to be. And that was the space, like, that's who was calling. Like, hi, I'm over here. You don't have to like block me out by busying yourself. Like, actually what you need is to slow down and listen to me. So I brought in the physical team. And I say this to all of my clients, whether it's one-to-one, whether it's in any of my coaching programs. I hope that I'm part of a team for you. I hope that this energy, this spirituality, and the cyclicality and the ancient wisdom that we talk about in coaching is a part of a broader, more full spectrum support system that you have in place, because this is my area of expertise. This is where I'm literally answering my soul's calling in coaching. But I don't know how to help you count macros, and I don't know how to help give you different drops of whatever my naturopath gave me, right? Like they're like hormone balancing drops. I don't know any of that. So I think that there is this beautiful relationship. And you're going to hear everything with me being about the wax and the wane, the being and the doing, the relationship between the masculine and the feminine, the go and the rest. I hope that I'm a part of that bigger picture for you so that we can do the thing, but also you've got to give yourself space to get honest with yourself. Because that night I came in and I said that to Michael, that was the most honest I had been with myself in forever. And Lauren, I know you've had experiences with this lately where it's like, oh shit, like I can't not do something about that now, or I can't not explore that now, or I can't not unpack the feelings that I have around that now, because that's the layering calling that's coming. So it was an and both. It was bringing in a support system, but also giving myself the time and the space to get to know me.
Yeah. I want to really make this crystal clear. What you were saying is you did not figure this out alone. And I
correct
in my community, Suffering in Silence. And we'll link in the show notes, of course, how you can connect with Jillian and learn about what she does. But also, like when I first started this, I didn't just hire you. I said, hey, I'm kind of exploring this. Do you have anything you recommend? And you sent me a couple books to read, and we'll link to that in the show notes too. So like, I didn't dive in, and this may be my logical self, but like I had to learn, I had to even understand what am I even like, what am I dealing with here? But yeah, to your point, like you guys, I can't tell you on how many calls, like I will say something to Jillian and I will follow it up with, that's the first time I've ever said that out loud. Like that has happened so many times because we're suppressing and we're clenching, and so good. Okay. So we have our team, we have our people, I don't want to say rock bottom, but we are like ready. We're
pretty freaking close.
Okay, we're rock bottom. We're surrendering.
Yeah.
Let's transition into this conversation around cyclicality. Like, how did you learn that. Like for me, again, if you're a free mama and you were with me in 2020, I talked about this before I even hired Jillian, where I was like, you guys, like, I'm kind of noticing that once a month, I hate everyone. And like, did you know it happens the same week every month? And like, some people were probably like, you're a moron. That's called your cycle. But for me, this was
it's so
information of like, wow, what if I didn't overexert myself that week? Or what if on the week where I'm feeling super extroverted and energized, I did a bunch of calls or a webinar, or like met with like it was groundbreaking for me. So I noticed it in my own patterns kind of organically. Yeah. How did you learn about cyclicality and like how this could help quite literally heal you?
Yeah, no, I love this question so much. And I love that you came from it. Your experiences, me and my cycle, I noticed that like I hate people during this week of my cycle. And like you didn't know that it was your cycle then, but then you started tracking your cycle and you started really looking at what was going on physically for you. Yep. Because I didn't have that, I kind of came at it from the other way. So I think that our stories combined are super powerful for women right now, because you can't get this wrong. And there are a bazillion different ways that you can connect with cyclicality. And what is cyclicality? It's recognizing that there is power within nature. All that is natural around you. You are a natural being, just like a tree is a natural being, just like the moon is a natural being. So as I was actually learning about the female cycle, a lot of the books and resources that I was reading and listening to mentioned the moon cycle, actually. And so same. I remember sitting outside, it was May. And the conversation I had with Michael was in February. So like I'm in it now. This is like 3 months in. And I was sitting outside and I was mapping out the moon cycle and recognizing like, oh my gosh, do you know that a moon cycle is like 29-ish days? And so is a female cycle. Like to me, that blew my ever loving mind, because I'm sorry, but there is no freaking way in the goddess's green earth that is a coincidence. Like it's just not. And the moon is representative of femininity, of the divine feminine. It's representative of our emotional self, and our emotions are so entangled in our female cycle. Like you said, you can pick out a week where you don't want to talk to a single human ever, because emotionally that doesn't feel good for you. You feel snippy or you feel sad or whatever it is that you, Lauren, experience. But we all have these different bits and pieces and experiences of our own. So because I didn't have a period, but I knew that the moon waxes and wanes up there, and the moon cycle has 8 phases that I follow. And I've done so much work with this now, but you can very nicely fit the female cycle within 2 of those phases and really match them up. So I started learning about the different energies associated with each phase of the moon. And I uncovered that during the disseminating moon phase, which is the phase right after the full moon, you do not want to communicate with me, and I don't want to communicate with you. I want to be wrapped up in a little blankie, either crying hysterically because I'm so tender during that time. I want to be with my kids. I do not want to be working. I don't want to be doing any of that. I didn't associate that with a physical cycle experience, but I associated it with the moon. And that is the moon phase that we feel connected to deeply nurturing and nourishing ourselves. So it's just fascinating because all of that is so closely linked. And the way I feel is that as we as women start to trust ourselves and tap into our intuition and witness the syncing of how we feel to what's going on in nature, right? And so also, I feel a lot different in July than I do in January. Right? July, it's summertime. It's hot. We can go out. We can do the things. January, I'm like, oh, it's real cold here. I just want to snuggle. And so there's cyclicality in everything. And we have been trained that we should function the same way every single day. And don't slow down, which leads to the clenching. But we as women, actually, we're not wired that way. And so your way of uncovering that was through your cycle. My way of uncovering that was through the moon cycle. And it's just I mean, for lack of better words, I don't think there is a better word. It's magical. And it's actually what's naturally available to us, which is just like, this work brings me to tears because why haven't we learned this earlier? Like, why isn't this just a part of like who we are and what we do? And you know what? That's what we're here to change.
Who put sex ed together is what I want to know. Like, who orchestrated that 7th grade health class? A man. Nope. That's who. Not a man. Yeah. Anyway, it truly is magical though, because something happened in your life when you kind of latched onto the moon. And what is that?
Yeah. Well, on August 8th, 2018. So I started focusing on this in February 2018. August 8th, 8/8/18. It's the day of the Lionsgate portal for any of the woo people out there. They're like, I know. We can get into that in a different episode at a different time. But big day in divine feminine energy. I got my first natural period in 14 days or in 14 years. And it was amazing and life-changing and life-altering. And I thought that was the end of the miracle. Fast forward about 10 months, July 2nd, 2019. And 2019 was the year that my word was surrender. 2019, having had a period now, but it never got to that 28, 29 day quote unquote perfect cycle. There's no such thing, but you know what I mean? But they sure were getting closer and closer together. And I sat in this chair in between coaching calls and I was like, oh my gosh, they were getting closer together. The last period I had was in April. I ran upstairs. I took my very first pregnancy test that you could actually see because the 2 first boys were blood work. Like I didn't take a pregnancy test. It was the IUI process. And I peed on a stick. And guess what that stick said? You're going to have a baby. So like, I mean, this cyclicality stuff, we've been programmed to believe that it's woo and that it's, pie in the sky and that it's like fairy tale stuff. But like I have tomorrow at the time of this recording, he will be 11 months old, my 3rd baby boy. And you know what? Each and every single one of them was created exactly as they were meant to be. And I'm so grateful. And I will say this forever and ever. I don't care how you conceive a baby, whether it is you just look at your partner and you instantly get pregnant, or you go through 7 years of IVF or whatever falls in between of that. I mean, they are all so magical. They come into our lives exactly when we were meant to have them and they were meant to be here. But yeah, my first 2 babies happened through IUI and I was told I would never have a baby without that level of support. And we thought we were done. And then now I've got a little boy named Nathan who came because I trusted in this work and I believed in this work and I synced to this work and I took it seriously because I took my own level of healing, not just my physical body and the relationship that I had with it, but like that, like deeper, energetic, spiritual, divinely worthy healing seriously.
I love it. Okay. I want to get into our practical tips. If you guys have listened to Free Mama Radio before, I'm all about action taking tips. And Jillian has some of those for you. And then I've got a final question. But before we get to that, because I do teach women how to be free mamas and start a business, I would love to hear however you want to answer this question, what was it like for you to take kind of this life-changing experience you had been through and to turn it into like your life's work? Or, I mean, you're running a business. Like I'm a heart-centered entrepreneur. I'm very impact, but like I'm still running a company. What was that like for you? And did you have any limiting beliefs? Like, have you had challenges, or was it just like also a fairy tale and magical? Like, what was that transition like for you?
Well, I feel like that transition never stops because I feel like it's transformation now and my business gets to transform right alongside me. And so I have pivoted. I've had this conversation a lot lately where people are like, how is it that you do what you do? And this could be a logistical tip. I gave myself permission to pivot, to do what I want whenever I want. And that comes with some hard conversations sometimes, but like, because now I can't BS myself anymore, Lauren. I can't do things because other people think I should do them. I can't put myself under somebody else's umbrella anymore. I just can't. Like, my soul has been like, excuse me, we've been through enough now, and this is big stuff. Like, it's time to really own this. So I'll say at the beginning of my business, it was kind of cookie cutter, and I was following what had worked for me and was trying to make it my own. But it was ultimately like, I was doing the very best I could, knowing that it wasn't my work, but I was working on it. And I wanted to keep the moon stuff and the cyclicality stuff kind of to myself for a while because I wanted to experience it. But I got to this point, actually last year, where it was like, oh, no, this is the work. And you're ready to share it now, and you're ready to hold space for it now. So I allowed myself to pivot into this. And ever since that moment, because I am fully embodied in what I do now, it feels amazing. And I know what it feels like to be doing a business and you like it and you're proud of yourself and you're working really hard, but something just doesn't feel quite right. And what I'm going to say to that is, oh gosh, I know we all hate this, but like, it really just needs a little bit of time, and you need to have your own supportive experiences to help guide you where you want to go. So hang in there, hang in there and try things, right? It's like my favorite thing that Elizabeth Gilbert ever said was get curious. People talk about like, go out and live your passion. And it's like, great, but what if I don't know what I'm passionate about? And Elizabeth Gilbert said in Big Magic, she said, just get curious. What are you curious about? Follow your curiosity, because that could lead to passion. And ultimately, I got curious about the moon, and I got curious about how the moon helped me get pregnant. And now, like, I don't help women get pregnant, but I help them sink into this deeper level of wisdom. And that's what feels like the most important work for me. So give yourself permission to pivot.
That was I really didn't know that you were going to say that, but I could have say that to this community. I really could have, because I think there's there's some resistance from doing what we really want, because there's a little more vulnerability there.
Totally.
I've witnessed that. And then there's a lot of like, well, I have to get it right the first time, or it has to be perfect before I start. And so I love that you shared, like, listen, I was doing the work. It wasn't my work, but I was doing it. And as I did it, it got clearer and clearer until it became non-negotiable. Beautiful.
Exactly.
All right, you guys, Jillian has for us 3 tips for getting started with cyclicality. So if any of this conversation, my story, her story, how she is helping me unfold my story, like if any of this is interesting to you and you're like, so where do we start without like a seance? Like, what's step one? How can somebody get interested and get started with cyclicality?
The very first thing I would do is, either if you have a period like you, Lauren, what I would recommend is start with day 1. So the first day that you bleed with your period, that's day 1. And then track. And I'm not saying, because I know when you hear the word track, like people kind of roll their eyes like, I don't have time. Like, no, you have time to write down literally day 1 through day 2, day 3, how you feel. That is it. That's all I want you to write down. What day it is and how you feel that day.
You guys can send me a DM. I started an Excel sheet. I'll share it with you.
Excellent. I have worksheets that I've given in like master classes, but like you could do it on a napkin, right? Like you could do it on a scrap piece of paper. If you don't have a period, then start with the new moon and write down the phase of the moon and how you feel that day. And what I would recommend, so that's the first thing, track it. The second tip is track it for like 3 to 6 months, because that will give you some real good data. And I know that if there are nerdy, geeky people like you and I watching, which I'm assuming there are, having that data to look back on and be like, oh, I legit turned into this tender cry fest during the disseminating moon. How about I start taking care of myself during that time? Oh, I don't want to talk to any human ever during this 1 week. What if I really buffer my schedule so I'm doing busy work and like behind the scenes work, and I'm not putting myself out there during that time? So step 1, track. Step 2, keep tracking. Step 3 is figure out how to support your life based on what you've learned there. right? And then that's literally the creation of the life that you want to live. It's what feels good. And this is my qualifying question ever. When is the last time you had fun? And what makes you feel good, right? And so how can we, now that we know what it is that we're working with, whether it's the moon cycle, whether it's your female cycle, whether it's kind of looking back at a full year and saying, wow, like during this time, I just want to kind of go into a cave. Oh, that's because it's fall going into winter. That makes sense, right? Like understanding this and then scheduling things for your life, for your business, for whatever other human time you have. I know with COVID, it's kind of funny, but like play dates and stuff, even that, like I won't say yes to a play date during the disseminating moon time because I want to be like a joyful person to be around. And I'm not that during that moon phase. So step 1, track. Step 2, get the data for enough months. Step 3 is start to ask yourself what feels good in life based on where you are in the cycle.
I love that. Okay. Last question. Are you ready?
Totally.
Okay. All right. I think you already know this, but the mission of the Free Mama is to make sure that no mother has to choose between family and financial stability. So knowing that and everything that we've talked about today in your own journey, do you have any final piece of advice for our listeners today?
The first piece is that it's a deep, like gentle soul reminder that you already know. And if you're willing to get quiet and sit with that deep knowing and trust her, that's going to make all the difference. Like you don't have to impress other people. You don't have to do things just because that person does it that way. Trust who you are inside because that's where your sacred work in the world is going to come from. And then, the last part is have fun. Like if you're not having fun, if you're finding yourself getting too serious, if you're finding yourself getting bogged down with jealousy or guilt or self-righteousness, it's because you haven't celebrated in a while. And so go celebrate on purpose. Stop waiting for something amazing in your business to happen. Stop waiting for your children to have the most perfect day ever. Take your life in the beautiful situation and present moment way that it is now and find something to celebrate.
If you guys don't love her as much as I do now, something is wrong here. Like you are amazing. I love the way you channel and like are guided and one with the words. I'm not so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's like poetry. It's beautiful. Jillian, thank you so much for being on Free Mama Radio. If you guys want to connect with Jillian, she actually has something free for you. It's called her Moon Phase Meditation Library. It's how many is it? It's like 10 meditations.
8. It's eight meditations, one for each phase of the moon, working with the energy of that phase.
Under 10 minutes. So no like mom excuses of I'm so busy and I don't have time for this. Like you do have time. And I just want to give you a reminder from one very active human being to another. I resisted things like meditation for a very long time because I thought it had to look a certain way. Listen to it in the shower. Listen to it on a walk. Like listen to it while your baby's playing on the floor or you're nursing, like whatever you need to do. Like you don't have to be like crisscross. Like I had a lot of resistation. I had a lot of for a very long time to meditation. That's what I was doing. Resistance, meditation. Because I made a lot of excuses about like why I couldn't do that. So go check this out. We'll put a link to the resources, all the books Jillian's recommended for me and any other goodies that she wants to throw in for you guys. We'll put those in the show notes over at freemamaradio.com. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please let us know, leave a review, leave a comment, take a screenshot of you listening on your phone and share it on Instagram. Tag us both. We would love to be able to share that. You guys are listening and see that feedback as well. Jillian, thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, I loved this so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so grateful.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Free Mama Radio. Don't forget to check out Free Mama TV right here on YouTube for hundreds of how-to videos and interviews to help you start, grow, and scale a virtual business from home. If you want to join a community of tens of thousands of moms just like you, make sure you join the Free Mama Movement group over on Facebook. And lastly, if you want to learn more about how we can do this together, work to achieve your goals, and make you our next success story, check out my free training at thefreemamamovement.com. I'll see you next time.